Stats are one of the most important things when it comes to training your horse skills, and understanding them properly is just as important as your career training choices. So today I'm going to break down each stat one by one for you, with its consequence, but also how each stat relates to each race phase. And yeah, you might have not known about race phases before, so stick around, we're gonna get into it. So horse skills have 5 core stats, with each of them influencing different mechanics during a race. And the maximum stat limit in Umamusume Pretty Derby for the Western version is 1200 for each attribute. But this will likely increase beyond that with deteriorating scaling at some point in the future, as they did for the Eastern version in August 2022. Now, most stats also have a value in certain race phases, of which there are 4, which are these ones, but also vary depending on which racetrack you're on and at what distance you are from start to finish. But before we get more into that, let's go over the stats one by one. I spent quite a lot of time putting these together, but it's actually only sort of a short recap of them, and what I'm going to do with you on the video is talk you through each pointer from 1 onwards and explain also the race phases that they relate to. Speed. So what does speed actually do? Well, it influences the target speed during the late race and last spurt phases. And right now I probably have you wondering or asking yourself, what the heck is target speed? Is target speed just speed, or is it something else? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Target speed is like the maximum speed your horse skill is trying to reach during a phase of a race. It's not the same as current speed, because she might be accelerating or deaccelerating towards this target. Think of it like this. The horse wants to go this fast right now based on the current race phase and her stats. So it acts like a soft cap on how fast she can go at any moment, and it varies depending on things like race phases, her speed stat, her positioning strategy, whether she's a runner or leader, the course layout, whether it's uphill or downhill, her active skills while she's on the track. WIT even slightly influences as well. So there's a lot to it. And what's interesting about this is that kind of raises another question, which is, well, when does the speed stat affect the target speed? What's funny about this is actually going to circle us back to race phases, because it's affected by speed on late race phases and also last spurt phases. And that's exactly why at the bottom of each stat page I decided to add the relevant race phases, because it's crucial information for you to actually understand when these things come into play. And if you do know how they come into play, that's when you're going to be able to start connecting the dots between different mechanics in the game. And that's exactly what I'm trying to achieve now with these guides, taking you step by step closer and building up your confidence and the knowledge around the game, so that unconsciously you're going to be connecting the dots between the mechanics in the game yourself. And it's also worth mentioning that the speed value used in calculations in the game can also be lowered by the terrain type and the terrain condition. Next we have power. And I think power is a little less complicated. What it does, basically straightforward, is it affects the height of acceleration your Uma can achieve at any point during the race, and her ability to filter through and change lanes. And the stuff you're seeing below this are probably making you think like, oh, I don't know anything about this game. But trust me, I felt the same way. You don't have to worry about this other stuff. Stamina contest, repositioning, power conservation, and release are mechanics that are actually not in the global version yet. Those are actually only right now available on the Japanese servers, and they released in August 2023. So we don't have that yet, but I'm still going to add some details about it, because hey, some people in the future might stumble across this video and be like, oh yeah, I'd love to know what stamina contest is and repositioning. I do wonder why he didn't cover it here. So I'm going to cover it now, and I'll make it really brief just to give you an idea of what it is. For stamina contest, a horse skill can only trigger stamina contest if the stamina stat is higher than 1200. And like I said at the beginning, right now we're all capped at 1200 and we can't go beyond that yet. But what it does is, when stamina contest triggers, the horse skill's last spurt target speed will rise beyond her stated maximum. And to put it in more simple terms, it basically just grants a speed buff during the last spurt phase if the stamina is high enough and if certain other conditions are met. Now I'm going to try to make repositioning more simplistic, because I think I blabbered a bit too much there about stamina contest. But anyway, repositioning, it basically uses HP to boost speed and change race position during mid-race phase, if the Uma is falling behind or basically is just stuck in a crowd. For power conservation, this one's quite simplistic as well. It also has relating to the depending on which race phase you're on, it basically reduces stamina consumption in mid-race phase. But it also depends if certain positioning conditions are met. And for release, it basically grants a small speed boost when entering the last spurt phase if specific preconditions are met, like power conservation or positioning. If those are fulfilled, then she'll get it. And naturally, because of the mechanics we just covered that are not out yet, but also because of the base description of power, it's relevant in all race phases. Next, we have stamina. Now, this one might be a little bit confusing because, again, there are some mechanics that are not yet available in the global version that I have to include on our presentation here, just so that we can stay relevant in future. But since I've already covered stamina contest and some other things, I'm going to not go over that again, and I'm just going to give you the breakdown of what stamina is worth now in the global version. And with that, it's actually quite simple. Stamina lets your horse skill keep running at full speed. So if she runs out, she slows down, especially at the end of a race. Now, what it does is that with a race, basically every race slowly drains stamina. If the stamina hits 0, she starts to tire and fall behind. Now, longer races obviously need more stamina, and this is why horse skills with medium to long race distances on their career need it the most. And it's also important to note that there are recovery skills to restore stamina during a race as well. And with all that being said, of course, stamina is relevant in all race phases, being early, mid, late, and last spurt. Next, we have guts. And boy, oh boy, now this little stat was a pain in the butt for me. I did like 2 runs solely boosting guts to check things out and how I can see how it actually affected depending on which track it was on and other things, and I couldn't understand from the translation, again from the Japanese version, some terms like lead contest, showdown, repositioning, and securing the lead. I just didn't see where they were fitting, and yeah, I wasted quite a bit of time on that because I came to understand that they're actually not in the global version either, or at least not just yet. So what is actually to be known about guts right now? Well, in addition to affecting the bonuses and the last spurt mechanics we are still yet to see in the global version, it basically reduces slowdown when stamina is low. It boosts the last spurt acceleration, and I'm not 100% sure of this, but I think it slightly increases base HP as well, and it's actually used for winning ties. Like if 2 horse skills cross the finish line at the same time, the one with the higher guts actually wins. I know, isn't that crazy? And 2 days ago, I didn't know that. I didn't know that their guts actually contributed to something that crucial, that if you're doing a draw at the finish line, whichever horse skill has the most guts actually gets the win automatically. It's wild. And naturally, based on this description and also including the mechanics that we are yet to see, it is still mostly only relevant in the last spurt, and surprisingly also at the finish line in case there is a draw. Now, I'm going to simplify this as well, although I've included all the updates from the Japanese version where they've added other mechanics and other things like that we are going to get later. But the most basic effects of WIT in the global version right now are these. It increases skill activation chances. It improves movement efficiency, which means less unnecessary swerving that make you lose speed. And it reduces stamina loss when running downhill, and improves reaction time to positioning decisions, so your horse skill will be much less hesitant and be backing down on things that she might have wanted to do. So we could also see this stat as a comparison to something called intelligence as well. But what's the main take from WIT right now? The main take you should try and remember about WIT, that it greatly contributes to skill activation chances, and that's a big one because it means whether your character is going to do her generic ult or she's actually going to activate the skills that she gets passed down or picks up on her own with the skill hints. And of course that leaves us with one thing to cover here is position keep mechanic, and that's something again that's not been added yet to the global version but will get to us eventually. And what it does basically is it's a sort of race phase mechanic from the start of the race until about halfway through the mid-race section. And how it works is that basically every horse skill runs in a one of 6 modes during a position keep, and these modes control how aggressively or how cautiously the horse skill tries to hold or improve their position. And yeah, out of writing this down like 4 times, that seems to be the most simplistic way to explain it. Now for that last part, number 2, on how well your WIT stat works can also depend on your horse skill style, like S rank frontrunner or A rank frontrunner. You don't have to worry about that yet either, because it isn't calculated like this with percentages in the global version. So right now, all I need to say to you about this is that WIT also has a relationship depending on what running style your horse skill is, if she's a front runner, and then closer, etc. And there's going to be a percentage scaling around that as well, and the lower ranks are actually going to be penalized. So if you have a G rank on one of these types, everything associated with that type is going to receive a penalty. And yes, you're probably wondering right now, but wait a second, he didn't talk about rushing behavior, and it's right there. Absolutely right. I almost forgot about it when I was recording this. And we do very much need to speak about it because that is currently in the global version. So, what is rushing behavior in contrast with WIT? Well, WIT affects how likely a horse skill is to rush. Basically, what rushing behavior is when a horse skill makes a sudden forward move mid-race, and with that, smarter horse skills basically time it better, and that's why I was comparing wit to intelligence earlier, because they don't waste stamina too early. And that is all you need to know about rushing behavior. And for the relevant race phases for wit, it's all of them. And that's because lots of skills have different race phase conditions. But yep, that's it for wit. Now, we've been talking about race phases quite a lot now and how it's relevant to each stat and how it's also relevant to certain mechanics that we are going to get later. Hopefully this is not going to overwhelm you. If it did, please let me know in the comments because I almost did leave this part out. But race phases, there's not that much to know about it and it is relevant to each stat, so it's worth covering all in the same video. So what are race phases? Well, every race in Umamusume is split into 4 phases no matter how long the race is. And this goes from early race, which is the start of the race, mid race, the longest section in the middle, and late race, near the end of the race, and last spurt, which is the final dash to the finish line. Usually when you see the UID closing out of the screen, that's when you know you're in the last spurt. And all these phases matter, because a lot of skills only activate during specific phases. And how are these phases divided? Well, if we take a 2,400 meter race, where 1/6 is 400 meters, this is how the phases would be split. And for a race that is a 1,000 meter race, where 1/6 is 167 meters, it would look like this instead. So to sum all of that up, your horse skill stats aren't just numbers, and each one plays a different role depending on the race phase. And this is exactly why I decided to put stats and race phases in the same video, because after you're done like playing around with the basics, knowing exactly what each stat does, and also knowing at which race phase they are the most relevant, is also going to help you understand the style of your Uma, being front runner, pace, late, or end closer. And that's all we need to say about this for now. But one last thing I want to say about you is well done. You watched my video, you listened to the information, you've done your best to try to understand it, and that's the best you can do right now. So please, if you're going back to the game and feel like you've not memorized anything, trust me, you have. It's all going to sink in slowly. And again, learning about Umamusume's mechanics is not a sprint or a race, funny enough. It's a marathon to knowledge, okay? It's not a race to knowledge, and we're going to get there together. That's it. Subscribe if you're new here, and drop me a comment on what you'd like to see next, because we're just getting started. This was Static. Remember to have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.